Sacramento.com.
All right. Good evening to everyone. My name is Catherine All, and I will be the moderator tonight. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Kitsap, I want to welcome you all to the 23rd Legislative District Representative Position 1 Virtual Candidate Forum. This is the first one that the Kitsap League has done, and we're planning for it all to go smoothly. If it doesn't, be patient. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that doesn't support or oppose political parties or candidates. After careful study and consensus by our members, the League does take positions on issues, and we take action on these positions at the local, state, and national level. We're also a membership organization, and we invite and encourage both women and men to become members and to help us work on our basic belief, which is that our form of government depends upon the informed and active participation of its citizens. And that's why we do these forums. We've had many questions submitted by the public. A lot of them were similar subjects, and so we tried to put them in one question. And some we received were more, would have been better submitted to a congressional candidate or a commissioner candidate. So we're sticking to state legislative issues that we'll be asking. The candidates participating tonight are Lou Krukar, Leslie Daugs, Tarra Simmons, and April Ferguson. There is one other candidate running for this position. He filed, James Beal, but we have contacted him many times and have not heard back from him. So we invite all candidates, but these four are the ones that have shown up tonight. And each one of you deserves our thanks for stepping forward and running for office. It's not an easy thing. So please be respectful of each other. Each of you deserve that. Okay, so we're getting into the rules now so that you all and the audience will know. The candidates will be given 1.5 minutes to make an opening statement. After all candidates have spoken, I will ask questions that have been submitted by the public. All candidates will have 1 minute to respond to each question. And at the end of the forum, each candidate will have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. And so candidates, keep your eye on the digital timer, and I'll keep my eye on it too, and tell you if you're going over. But you'll be able to finish a sentence before I cut you off. Okay, so let's get started. We will begin with opening statements in the order that the candidates appear on the ballot. So Lou, you get to go first.
Thank you. 8 minutes and 46 seconds, that police officer put his knee on George's neck until he was dead. Who do we trust? The president has told us, drink bleach, expose ourselves to ultraviolet light. That is the way we're going to find a way through this pandemic. This is our cure. Who do we trust? They're telling us now we're going to send our kids back to school, to the colleges, to the high schools, to the grade schools, that it's safe, 5 days a week. And if we don't, we're going to lose our federal funding. Who do we trust? And now they're saying go to school for 2 days and homeschool for 3. There are people, families that do not have access to the internet or devices, let alone an adult or someone that can help them through those 3 days of schooling. Who do we trust? You have my phone number, you have my email. My door is open to my home. I'm here to listen to you and be an advocate for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lou. And now, Leslie, you're next on the ballot. You get to speak first, your opening statement.
Hi, my name is Leslie Daugs, and I am a fourth-term Bremerton City Councilwoman. I am a woman, a person of color, a child of immigrant parents. There are so many issues going on federally right now that affects a lot of the values that I represent. And so I feel it's time to move some of the skills that I've been doing with the city of Bremerton onto the state level. I'm running for the Washington State House, 23rd Legislative District, State House of Representatives for position 1. And I'm coming here today because of some of the values that I feel we need to move forward. People of color are getting stepped on. Immigrant families are getting stepped on. Women are getting stepped on. And I feel it's time to make a change and move forward to the state level. I've done some great things with the city of Bremerton, and I love the things where we've gone. And some of the things we've done with the city of Bremerton is we've got a plastic bag ordinance. We did a puppy mill ordinance where we won't have businesses sell puppies from puppy mills. And we've done a moderate welcome city for the city of Bremerton. We do safe place stickers for businesses in our community. These are things we've done for the city of Bremerton, and I think we need to start moving some of these skills to the state level. So my name is Leslie Daugs. I'm running for the Washington State House of Representatives, position 1 in the 23rd Legislative District. Thank you.
Okay. And Tarra Simmons, it's your turn next to give your opening statement.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for holding this forum. I want to thank all of the candidates for their public service and their willingness to step up to run. And I want to thank everybody for taking time to care about a local primary race. I am Tarra Simmons, and I'm running for the 23rd also. I am a civil rights attorney, a nonprofit director, a national leader in the fight for criminal justice reform. I'm a former Harrison Hospital emergency room nurse. I'm a working mom of 3 children, and I'm also the wife of a union carpenter. I'm also a person that has overcome significant adversity, from generational poverty to foster care and homelessness, to substance use disorder and criminal justice involvement. However, thanks to the resilience that I found in this community, I now am celebrating 9 years of sobriety. And for the last 7 years, I've been on a mission to ensure others in our community have hope and opportunity from the beginning and never have to survive the violence that I have. For the last 5 years, I've been working down in Olympia to pass bipartisan legislation to support the Kitsap County residents in the areas of education, healthcare, voting rights, criminal justice reform, and our economy. I've been mentored by Sherry Appleton for the past 2 years, and I'd be honored to earn your support and continue of fighting for the good people of our district. I'm very much looking forward to answering any and all questions tonight, and thank you all for your thoughtful consideration as your next state representative.
Thank you. And now, April Ferguson, it's your turn for your opening statement.
Hello, my name is April Ferguson, and I'm running for 23rd District State House of Representatives. I'm a business owner, former early learning education professional. I'm a mother of 6 children, and I believe that we have a duty to preserve our society and liberties for future generations. Because our children are our future, and the laws we pass today will impact the society they are growing up in. I currently chair the 23rd District Republicans, where I have worked with dedication to restore voter participation in our district. I'm dedicated to issues that impact Washingtonians, our businesses and jobs, our mental health care system, services for individuals with special needs, property rights, Second Amendment rights, and all issues that impact the rights and well-being of Washingtonians. I'm not a single issue candidate. I believe that it is important that a state representative focuses on all issues that impact the rights of individuals and the well-being of our state. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for being able to pull this forum off in the midst of the current crisis in our state. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not seeing Kara's video or Luke Krukar's video. Lou, are you there?
Excuse me? Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I.
Can't see you.
Oh, shoot.
Just your name.
Lou Krukar, can you see me?
Yes, we can see you now.
Okay.
Okay. All right, we're going to start with the first question. And remember, you have a minute for this one. This says the state budget is severely challenged by revenue losses due to COVID-19. What are your funding priorities? And we get to start with Leslie.
Thank you. Thank you again for the League of Women Voters for having us here. But right now, we are in a financial crisis due to the pandemic. The last thing we need to do is cut services to our social safety net. These are the services that the people in our community are going to need them now more than ever. And I think we need to look at holding our corporations a little bit more accountable, and then also looking at taxes on our rich individuals, because right now our working class families are paying more in taxes. And so we need to look at holding our corporations accountable, and also our those that have more money than our working class families, and definitely do not cut services to our social safety net. So thank you again.
Okay. And Tarra, again, what are your funding priorities at this time?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. We cannot cut our way to a solution. We've seen in previous recessions that austerity measures absolutely harm us on the back end. So I am going to be a fierce champion from day one on progressive revenue. I proudly serve on the board of directors for the Economic Opportunity Institute and have been championing progressive revenue, and will be able to increase that impact as a state representative. So I will definitely support capital gains, excessive compensation on big corporations, and I will not stop fighting if we're going to look at cutting anything to our most vulnerable communities, including people with disabilities, children with disabilities, mental health, substance use disorder treatment, housing, and homelessness. People need, and we need to center the most impacted during this time, or else we're going to pay for it tenfold in prisons later on. And so I will definitely be working on corrections reform and progressive revenue to save our community.
Thank you. You're going to get to expand on these issues a little bit more, because we've got a couple other questions that cover some of this. April, what are your funding priorities in this difficult time?
To start, there are certain programs and funds in the state you just cannot cut because it involves the well-being and rights of Washingtonians. And those include services for those with disabilities and special needs, mental health services, and programs which are protected by Washington State Constitution, Article 13, Section 1. And also basic education, which is also guaranteed by the Washington State Constitution. We are experiencing reduced revenue because we have shut down our state. Government all too often grows by creating problems and crises to offer solution. Not saying this problem has been created by government, but shutting down our state. This was the obvious problem that would come from that, is a revenue issue. I, as a state representative, will not allow the individuals to pay the price for the poor decisions of elected officials by using this crisis to try to take more from the pocketbooks of Washingtonians. I do not believe the answer is in increased taxes. The Washingtonians have already paid a high price. And so my objective as a state representative is to look for solutions that do not include further suffering by Washingtonians.
Thank you, April. Lou, what are your funding priorities?
Well, I guess right now my total most priority is schools. It's come up that's really tied everything together as far as how we're going to get through this. The other is social services. I agree with Leslie that, well, excuse me. I think that we need to protect the most vulnerable. They're going to be at the most issue right now. And that also, like I said, schools are the #1 priority. That's my issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. This next one ties in with this, and some of you have mentioned it, but you get to expand a little bit more. What would you cut to make the budget balance? And Tarra, you get to go first.
Yeah, thank you. I definitely think there are some criminal justice reform measures that we can implement, some alternatives to incarceration. Right now, we are spending $1 billion a biennium on the Department of Corrections and basically housing people who are suffering, who have substance use disorders and mental health issues. We can treat people in the community and save a lot of money instead of building more prisons. So that is some things that I definitely plan to introduce is corrections reform that will save us some money. I would also look at cutting non-essential things from our budget right now and closing and looking at corporate loopholes that need to be re-examined and sunsetted. Those are the ways that I would save money at the same time as fixing and addressing our regressive tax code. We could actually pass progressive revenue and give small business owners a cut in their B&O taxes and reduce our sales tax, which is falling on our most marginalized working families and low-income people.
Thank you. April, what would you cut to make the budget balance?
Washington, the people of Washington have already paid a high price, and it's time we cut spending to compensate for our revenue shortage. It is fiscally responsible to stop, back up, look at our budget, and look for non-essential services and programs in our state. To do that, we really need to come to the drawing table together. And I personally support that a special session. Of course, that would happen before I would be in there, but I believe that the lawmakers need to come together and look through our budget, look at the different things that we're supporting. We need to really ask, is it the purpose of government to offer this? If not, then we need to consider cutting.
Thank you. Lou?
About the only way I see it to do it is basically go a line item. We're okay now through this 2020 basically. Where it's really going to hit the fan is 2021 in that session. We're going to have to look at every item that's being spent and evaluate what's going to be the most bang for the buck. We could be in this who knows how long as far as the pandemic that's just going to draw this down and our incomes and revenues down. So I'm in favor of a special session also, although we wouldn't be a part of it. I think it's at the earliest opportunity that needs to be done. That's going to be the only way. I don't believe we're going to be able to increase the revenue to adjust for that. So it's going to have to be a line item, and we're going to have to say, is this important to us now? Is this what's going to help us get through this? And,
thank you, Lou.
Thank you.
Leslie?
Thank you.
What would you cut?
Thank you so much. We can't cut growth. We definitely need to continue our growth in our economy. But the one thing I do want to take a look at is our tax loopholes for our corporations. Our corporations pay very little, and our working class families pay a lot more. And if we're going to make some changes, I will definitely want to look at our corporations' tax loopholes and make sure to hold them accountable.
Okay, thank you. You sort of led into the next question. This question asked, what new sources of revenue are you willing to consider to help balance the budget? And the second part of this is, have you considered cutting some of the corporate tax breaks? April, you get to go first.
Washington citizens have already undergone significant losses due to the current crisis. They've had their businesses, income, housing, and well-being impacted. The solution is not dumping the crisis on the people to continue to bear. Government made the decisions impacting its revenue when it shut down the lifeline of our state, and that is our businesses. Increasing revenue by having our businesses and people bear the burden with increased taxes is not the solution. I believe we need to cut unnecessary government spending, which is always difficult, but necessary in the aftermath of a crisis. We have to ensure that we are not cutting from programs and services that ensure the well-being of citizens that are guaranteed by Washington State Constitution. we need to work on solutions that revive the economy and revive the revenue for our state, which lies in the successful reopen and recovery of our Washington businesses. So what I'm saying is we need to reopen our state fully. We need to have businesses back to work, people back to work.
Thank you.
And that's how we bring more revenue in.
Okay, Lou?
Well, I believe that we need to do more joint venturing with business rather than saying you're the cash cow that we're going to choke until you're dead. I believe that there are corporations that would gladly step up in joint venture around education, especially around education. The unions, Microsoft, I'm sure, and I think we need to look more that way rather than tapping for their revenue, because I think they're definitely more willing to step up as a joint venture. Thank you.
Thank you. Leslie, your turn.
Can you repeat that question?
Yes. What new sources of revenue are you willing to consider to help balance the budget? And have you considered cutting some of the corporate tax breaks?
So the first thing I want to say is I definitely would have a hard time laying off employees. I don't firmly believe in balancing a budget on the back of our working class families, our union families. So definitely wouldn't be putting it on the work of the families, but definitely would be holding our corporations accountable, looking at the tax loopholes, holding our corporations accountable, also looking at our B&O tax. It's split up so that various corporations pay minimal of that B&O tax and other businesses pay more. It needs to be relooked at and relooked at the actual funding to make sure that it's hitting the proper places like our corporations. Our corporations should be held accountable, and definitely looking at our B&O tax is definitely another way of option of looking into our financial concerns.
Thank you. And Tarra?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think it was about new revenue. Closing corporate loopholes is not going to be enough to get us out of this crisis. We absolutely do need to look at new revenue. And I strongly support Senator Nguyen's bill around excessive compensation on big corporations that pay employees more than $1 million a year. That alone will raise us over $850 million a year. I would look at, obviously, capital gains tax. I strongly would like to look at a state income tax on our highest paying families. Like if you earn a salary over $250,000 a year, but we would need to put up some real guardrails around that, because we would not want to squeeze out our low income, middle class, what used to be middle class families. I agree we would not want to cut jobs to our working families, but there are several options for new revenue sources, and we need that. Because obviously we have a homelessness crisis, we have a severely broken mental health system, we need new revenue.
Thank you. Okay. So since availability of affordable rental or lower cost housing is an issue in the 23rd, what initiatives or approaches would you propose or support in Olympia to increase housing for low and moderate income families? And Lou, you get to go first this time.
That's a great question. And as far as what to do in Olympia around that legislation, I am not sure, and that would be something I definitely would need to look into. I know that, and Leslie actually might know more about this. I know that the hospital in Bremerton, since it's being decommissioned, they have talked about making that into some sort of a community, actually, with housing, and so I'm more of a project like that we would focus on our district of supplying some alternative housing and affordable housing locally. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lou. Leslie, you're up next.
Yes, thank you. And the project that Lou was mentioning is the East Side Employment Center. The Harrison Hospital is closing up soon. And in the city of Bremerton, we want to make sure that residents can live there affordably. So we're trying to make sure that there are options that the developer can offer to the renter, like multifamily tax exemptions. The developer can building a property and can offer a percentage of the apartments at a lower income rate by applying for multifamily tax exemption. But I've sat on many homeless and housing coalitions, and I feel this is a big issue. A person should be able to live in their community and based on not because they cannot afford to live there. So we definitely have affordable housing as an issue. The city of Bremerton, we pushed some money to Bremerton Housing for rental assistance. I want to continue to see some of those fundings to assist that and see if we can put funding to assist for affordable housing, rent caps, and assist in rental assistance as well in a statewide measure.
Thank you. Okay, Tarra?
Yeah, absolutely. The reason why we have the housing crisis is because we have grown so much and don't have enough housing. And so we absolutely need to invest in more multi-family homes. We need money to do this. We have brilliant ideas and partnerships. I love what we're doing in our community in Bremerton with Pendleton Place. We're going to help the chronically homeless. The problem is with the Housing Trust Fund being so squeezed as it is, we pit groups against each other. So right now we're focused on chronically homeless people, but we're lacking in supporting our elderly and our disabled communities. We just don't have enough resources to go around and investment in housing. So from day one, I'm going to be a fierce advocate for progressive revenue and directing that money into our affordable housing and homelessness issues. I agree, nobody in our community should be paying more than 30% of their gross income on housing. And so we need to subsidize housing and provide incentives for developers to develop affordable housing.
Thank you. April?
We make affordable housing difficult by overregulating the housing industry. I believe we need to start deregulating and need to make it affordable to build more homes and provide more incentives to landlords to provide lower cost rent. We also should team up more with contractors for flipping homes and renting them to lower income individuals. Helping people flip their own homes and qualify for bank loans by incentivizing giving low interest loans to those with credit issues so they can get into a home. There are many houses out there affordable at low cost that need work to make it livable. I come from this more, my husband and I are in the house building industry as electricians. And in the past, my husband has actually done things to work with homeowners that have not been able to provide for electrical fixes that they needed by consulting with them, because they're allowed to do their own repairs. And so he would consult with them so they could keep their costs down lower. And I believe that if we team up those producing the houses and those renting the houses.
Okay, thank you, April. Your time's up. Okay, next question. How would you rate our state's response to the pandemic? What, if any, additional steps would you have recommended or not supported in responding to the spread of COVID-19? And Leslie, you get to go first on this.
This pandemic is definitely an interesting turn that has happened to our state, but I think our governor reacted well. He provided a safe place, moved us to stay home, quarantine. So we did move faster than some states. But the one thing I think we need to work on and look at is making sure we should not have to tug of war for funding with our other states, because we're all in the same crisis. The other thing I want to look at is making sure that our essential workers have the supplies that they need. They should not be coming to work without the supplies because the need is not there. We need to make sure that we are always planning for the future. As we as families put money away for emergencies, we as a state should do the same thing. We need to look at this and look at the future and know that we're going to have another problem, and continue to plan financially and make sure we have enough protection equipment for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Tarra?
Yeah, I think I support what Governor Inslee has done in keeping us safe and keeping us healthy. However, here in Kitsap, our cases have been, or in Eastern Washington, they continue to rise. We need to enforce the suggestions and the guidance from our governor across the state to keep the cases down and stop the spread of this pandemic. One area that I would have paid more attention to if I had the authority is regarding our children that have special needs, additional needs that are in school. A lot of them are going out without their therapies. They rely on free and reduced lunches. I know some have been able to still get that. People have been stepping up. However, I think, there's inequities throughout our educational system that's impacting our children right now with the lack of broadband, internet around the state, in addition to the therapies that so many of our children rely on that are tied to the school. And so bringing innovative solutions to have those home-based would have been an area I would have invested in.
Thank you. April?
I do not agree with the approaches that our governor has taken. I believe that we needed more balanced solutions. Businesses have really suffered, our revenue has suffered, and I believe that we made decisions that impacted our state in the long run that is going to stick with us for years to come. We don't, we're treating a lot of our businesses like collateral damage. When I see the flower shop that I've seen in town, for over a decade, when I see it gone, are we talking about, we're talking about reviving our economy, but we're treating the losses as losses that we're not going to bring back. These are people that have lost their incomes, their livelihoods, years of their investment. And I believe that our governor should have taken more steps to work with the legislature to come up with balanced solutions that didn't make Washingtonians collateral damage.
Thank you. Lou?
Well, I think the governor did an excellent job in getting us as prepared as we could. The only thing that I was a little disappointed about is I would have been more strict about the masking from the start. And because I think that it's been clear once it was what was known to us, that was one of the biggest things that we could do to control that. But other than that, I think he did a really good job, especially based on the federal response was so inept, inadequate, and by leaving the states on their own, and that's what contributed to states fighting each other for the PPEs and everything else. And I think that we're still in that same kind of environment. I think that there needs to be a national standard about the mask. We just got to do it. So I was very pleased with what the governor did, except for that one issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next question. Do you feel the pandemic has exposed major flaws in our healthcare system? What, if anything, can the legislature do to make sure that all residents have adequate health care? And Tarra, you get to go first on this easy one.
Yeah, absolutely. We absolutely need universal health care to make sure that every single person in our community has access. I mean, a couple of things. First of all, in the pandemic, we see how defunding our public health system has resulted in a nightmare where we didn't have adequate PPE and response because of poor decisions in the past. Going forward, we need to expand and make sure that every single person has healthcare accessibility, including mental health and behavioral health care. So right now, the Universal Healthcare Task Force is meeting and hopefully going to have some recommendations. I'm really proud of, again, the organization I serve on the board of, the Economic Opportunity Institute, that was the leader in Cascade Care, which created the first public option in our state. We need to drive down costs, and we need to expand upon that. Super excited to see what the Universal Task Force comes out with. Their report should be back in November, and I'm going to be a fierce champion on that from day one, too.
Thank you. April?
Well, I got to be honest with you. I have not researched what we could do better in, but I do believe that when we take crises and situations like this and we go to this drawing table and we look at how can we do better next time. As a state representative, I would work across the aisle and with other state representatives to see what could we come up with next time that would make the situation easier for Washingtonians. But do I have an answer right now? No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Lou?
I support Healthcare for All Washington, a pathway to universal health care bill. They also support its E2 SSB, insulin affordability and price monitoring. Also SB 6073, universal feminine and hygiene products in public schools. I really support the healthcare for Washington. That's where I thank you.
All right. Leslie?
During this pandemic has showed us that healthcare is a vital instrument that we as individuals all need. And right now, every individual should have healthcare. We should not be stopping anyone from being able to have appointments with their doctors or pay food for their pay meals for their family. So I think we all need healthcare for all. Everybody deserves healthcare. Nobody should go without. I think it's a priority, and I am all in favor of pushing for getting a statewide healthcare to make sure all families are covered. We shouldn't have to have a pandemic to realize that my meals are more important than my health, and that's the wrong way to go. We need to change that mind thinking and make sure that everybody's got health care. Then we don't even have to struggle between paying for our food or our health care or the rent over our head if we have health care for all. So I'm all in favor of it, and we'll push for it and continue to fight for health care. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this is somewhat connected. How can the state ensure that hospitals in rural communities survive the financial uncertainty of COVID-19 and remain open to serve their communities? April, any thoughts on this?
No, I don't, not without researching. I would not, no, I do not have a response on that.
Okay.
If I don't have an answer, I'm not going to create an answer. I'm just going to be honest and say I don't have one on that. So
okay, that's fine. Thank you. Lou, any thoughts on how to help rural hospitals?
Well, you know, I think that's maybe the fate of rural hospitals. Without funding, that they cannot stay open. And you know, it's too bad. I don't think we suffer that in our district as bad as like over in Eastern Washington, where the communities are spread out, say Rosalia or Spokane or Pullman, where they don't have the concentrations of population that would be able to support a full-blown hospital. So Pullman would, because of the University of Spokane, yes. So it might just be regional, and other than without state support, that would be the only way that they could stay in business. Thank you.
Thank you. Leslie?
The one thing I am proud of is I'm a member of the Association of Washington Cities, and we have small groups in that where small cities get to explain their concerns and issues. And with that, we get to lobby in Olympia with our legislators and speak on our small cities issues. Definitely would put this on one of the agenda items to talk to all Association of Washington Cities to make sure they have buy-in with all our small cities to give input to our legislators to help fund that in some way. Looking at using interns or finding solutions, because we should not at any point close any healthcare facility because of funding. So we need to make sure that is a priority and ensure that the families are being taken care of.
Thank you. Tarra?
Yeah, this is great. You know, I've been a registered nurse since 2001 or 2000, and I've worked in several different facilities. I worked at Harrison Hospital in the emergency room. I also worked at Mason General in the emergency room, which is out in Shelton, and it was very much different than Harrison Hospital. I've done traveling nursing and worked at big institutions in Seattle and Tacoma. I also worked at little places like American Lake for the veterans out in Lakewood, where, you know, everybody has a different kind of setup, and bringing things to scale is important. And in places like rural communities where we're trying to deliver healthcare in an accessible way to meet that community's needs, we often rely on visiting doctors. People come and work 24-hour shifts and sleep there. And so through creative partnerships and innovative solutions, we can still meet the demands of the community and make sure that healthcare is accessible for all. It's just coming together and building that kind of coalition stakeholder group.
Thank you. Okay, this is kind of a general question, but why do you want this opportunity to serve? What would you say are the 2 areas of policy or change in government that are driving you to run for this seat? And Lou, you get to go first.
He's on mute. He's on mute.
You need to unmute.
Nope, he's still muted.
Unmuted?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Leave it
I was sitting here. I'm a victim of the internet. Okay. Hit me up with that question again, please. I lost my train of thought.
Yes, it says, why do you want this opportunity to serve? What would you say are the 2 areas of policy or change in government that are driving you to run for this seat?
I don't necessarily think I was looking to change government. There were certain issues to this district that prompted me to do this. That's what I'm about, this district and the citizens here, not as much on a grander scale. But so there were a couple of issues that prompted me to run. One is I'm concerned about the Oxy situation and that problem that we've been into, and I wanted to get involved with legislation around that and health around that. The other is so in our district, these were my 3 hit points. I wanted to see, and this is again our district, to make sure that there's internet accessible, and I want to see the Kingston Ferry Terminal or holding lanes put in, because it's a regional problem that we're addressing, and we haven't really talked about our district's problems, and that's why.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. Your time's up. Okay, Leslie?
So it's now more than ever that we need experience in Olympia. I am a 4th-term Bremerton City Councilwoman, and we need experience in Olympia. But some of the issues that I want to move forward, I see homelessness and housing still going to be an issue, and I see homelessness growing because of this pandemic. We need to make sure to look at rental caps and considering looking at our rental and making sure that our property owners aren't increasing our rent. We need to make sure we're not cutting services so that we have more people are homeless. We need to make sure that we have roofs over our families and food in their stomachs. So we definitely got to not cut services. Another concern of mine is education. Education, I work in a middle school with 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and we are doing a disservice during this pandemic when they're not getting the full education that they deserve. And we need to make sure that we are providing internet and computers and laptops to ensure that our students are getting educated. Thank you.
Very good.
Tarra?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. Why do I want to serve? This community has come alongside me and helped me after I overcame so much in my life. I want to give back to this community that made sure that I had a first chance and a second chance in life. I also, it's really, I'm hesitant to answer like the top 2 things. I will say that I have done more in Olympia for this community in the last 5 years than most people have accomplished in 10 years. I cannot pick 1 or 2 issues that are most important because all of this is so intersectional. From our education and keeping kids in school, we need access to mental health care, we need access to housing first. I mean, the children are coming into the school and coming from generational poverty, not having their needs met. We can't just approach it with one thing like education policy. If I had to choose 2 things, it will be to bring restoration and prevent adverse childhood experiences and to really address our regressive tax code, because that's where the problem is.
Thank you. April?
The reason I got involved is because I've seen losses of individual liberty, losses of people's rights, businesses harmed, and every law that is passed impacts the future generations. We often hear people talk about our children are our future, but we don't really look at these laws and how they're going to impact our children's future, how it's going to impact their rights. We have laws on our law books from back, I mean, I've seen some from back in the 1930s that are impacting people's rights and due process. And we need state representatives that are not looking for quick fixes and band-aids, but will look at each and every bill and say, how will this defy the proper role of government? Will this impact or take a risk of impacting someone's individual liberties? And is it financially responsible for our state, not just now, but in the long run? We need balance in Olympia. That's why I'm running. I'm running to bring balance in Olympia.
Okay. Next one is, how will you address racial and poverty injustice? Do you feel the Black Lives Matter movement has raised legitimate issues about the fairness of law and justice in our state? And is there any specific legislation you'd like to see passed to bring greater fairness in this area? And Leslie, you get to go first.
Black Lives Movement, yes, it's it's a First Amendment, I mean, it's one of our freedom of speech, and we need to make sure that we hold our rallies and speak for injustice. I currently sit on CARE, Kitsap Advocating for Immigrant Rights and Equality, and I just recently pushed in the city of Bremerton a racial equity advisory committee. And because of myself being on the city council, I push for this. And this gives an opportunity for our city residents to come to the council and say, we have issues of racial inequity. Let's change our policies. Let's look at our policies. I want to look at our state level and see what committees we have as well. And if possible, put a racial equity committee to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the state of Washington as well. We have a diverse community of cultures, and we need to make sure we are meeting their needs. And it's not just meeting their needs, but educationally, we're not giving enough service to our people of color. Thank you.
Thank you. Tarra?
Yeah, as you know, somebody who came from generational poverty, and I had my first Black son when I was 15 years old. I've been fighting for racial equity in this community he's 27 now. So, you know, when he started kindergarten, he was the only child of color in his whole entire class. Because we have such little, you know, a small Black community here. However, I was showing up from kindergarten on, trying to teach the children about cultural diversity. And as things got further down the road, I have been fighting for racial equity and restoring our humanity in schools and making sure that children have a first chance by reducing disproportionate discipline and suspension and expulsion, both working with the Central Kitsap School District and then also in Olympia, passing legislation to make sure you can't suspend Black and brown children based on their behaviors. I would say that all of the work I do around criminal justice reform to combat systemic racism, will continue to do that.
Thank you. April?
Well, I personally have never had to suffer an injustice when it comes to, you know, racial injustice, but I do have empathy for those that do. And I have grown up in poverty though, and I have grown up knowing what it's not to have opportunities. And a lot of the difference for me was having an education. It was when I finally had the opportunity, getting to go to school and become a competent member of society because that education was available. And we all know what this issue is really about. You know, it really has to do with what's happened, you know, recently in our society. Our society, we're whipped apart right now. People are the divide in our society. And I myself, I don't play identity politics. I don't like to get into identity politics, but I do believe we need to recognize that injustices and issues and work on them. But what I would focus on more is about more training with police officers and accountability in our justice system. Right now.
Thank you. Your time has expired. You'll get a chance to speak on that in a while. Lou?
Could you repeat the question?
Well, it's basically, how will you address racial and poverty injustice?
Okay, for the Black Lives Matter situation?
Well, did that influence it and so on?
Well, for me, it's a little disappointing because I've lived a long time. I remember in 1965, the Watts riots, my auntie calling my mom and asking, please can I send your cousins up, that they thought Los Angeles was going to burn. That need to be addressed. And then when something else comes along, it just gets put aside. And so I'm a little bit concerned that that is the same thing that's happening right now. And partly because of the pandemic that's taken over that. I think it needs to be addressed through education, accessibility to education, that everybody has that access to the internet, to a device, to be able to get an education. And that is always what's going to be a step up for everybody. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, do you have any opinions about improving police training in managing nonviolent crimes? And Tarra, you get to start with this.
Yeah, absolutely. The problem is that we are asking our police to be social workers, to be mental health counselors, to respond to an array of social issues when they are not trained in those ways. Right now, our law enforcement criteria does not call for any post-secondary education. They go through academy. I believe it's about 16 weeks long. There's no way that they can be well equipped to act and behave as a master's in social worker can. And so we are tasking our law enforcement with something that is not really the way that they're trained with. It's the same with teachers. We ask our teachers to be wraparound social workers and to find out why little Johnny won't sit in his class, in his seat, and why he's coming to school with the same clothes on for 3 days. We don't have enough supports to actually solve our social issues, and law enforcement is there to protect us and to be investigatory of crime. And so having them respond to social issues is not okay.
Thank you. April?
So I'm a mother of a child with autism. So this issue is actually one that I've given a lot of thought, and it's because I have to look out for my son's future. And one of the things I fear is my son getting approached by a police officer that doesn't have the training to deal with special needs. My son, under a restraint or any kind of physical restraint, would become confused. He wouldn't understand and what's going on. And I believe that we do need to work more with training with our police officers, and that we need to provide them more resources to know how to handle these situations. There needs to be more training in de-escalation. There needs to be more, but there also needs to be a fix and accountability, because it's not always just a training that's the issue. It's also someone violating their duty to protect and serve. And we have a lot of good police officers, like the lady who risked her life just the other day, to stop a vehicle that was going the wrong way. But we also have police officers that do abuse their power, and we need to have more accountability for when those situations happen. There needs to be more accountability.
Thank you, April. Lou?
Well, I believe in our civilized society that city police should not have a sidearm. I think that just having that escalates the situation. I'm not saying that our police not be armed in their squad cars or whatever. They would have a shotgun or whatever weapon they would need. But I just don't believe that they need to have a sidearm. A good example in Paulsville last 3rd of July, I don't believe that would have happened if the officers had not had a sidearm. So I also think that as far as, oh, shoot, I had it written down. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll just stop right there. Thank you.
All right. Leslie?
Thank you for that question. Again, this is where I say we need more experience in Olympia. I've been the chair of the Public Safety and Parks for many years with the City Council. Some of the things we've done to promote community policing is we provided a Batmobile, and it's behavior interventionists are on a van that's funded through the Peninsula Health Clinic and our police department, and it gives them the opportunity to assist a person that might have mental health or need medication, or but they will have that opportunity to be able to participate in that. The other thing is we've done some great things in the city of Bremerton. We engage with our community. We have a PAC group that the police meet with our church members, and the young youth can speak at that. We defunded our militarization. We do no longer fund SWAT in our city. We provide safe place programs so that people can feel safe in businesses. Thank you.
Okay. Have you built meaningful communication and relationships with the indigenous populations in the area? And how are you listening to their needs and responding? And April, you get to go first.
I had the pleasure back a while ago of serving on the Squamish Advisory Council. And one of the things that really bothered me, and this is going to be a cut against the county, is I felt that the advisory council was there really to step on the toes of the tribe there. And when you're in Squamish, one of the things you really notice is that they have a culture of charity. They have a culture of taking care of each other. And honestly, we don't need to be in there impacting, stepping on their toes. They do very well with how they run their community. And I eventually left the Squamish Advisory Council because I didn't want to take part anymore in the mistreatment of the tribe. And it was something that I noticed was really strong. I even heard comments to the point of saying, you guys are a very new culture, which highly offended me because no, they've been here for a long time. And one of the things that really touched me was one of their tribal elders said, we are having to build more homes because our children are coming home. And he talked about how their children were taken in the past and they're coming home, they're finding their home. And that really hit me. That hit me really hard.
Okay.
And I left because of that very reason. I didn't feel right being there.
Okay. I think your time is up, but Carol, can you hear me? We're not seeing the timer.
Yes, I have made an error there. I'm sorry about that. Everything's okay.
Okay. Can we start the time again?
Yes.
Okay. So it's Lou's turn now.
Well, actually, I think that we need to appeal to the tribes for help from them. And that is one of the joint ventures that I think that we would like to see. I think especially in the mental health arena, that we could get a coalition between the county, the tribes, and also through the federal government because of the Navy, some way to get everybody on board with the satellite public health spot. And I think that, again, I think that the tribes actually, we need to appeal to them for help for us. And they have the resources. And I think that people that would be willing to do that. Thank you.
Thanks. Leslie?
Thank you for that. First of all, we do need to acknowledge that we are sitting on tribal lands. And that's the one thing that we need to do regularly in our elected bodies, is to recognize that we are sitting on tribal lands. But yes, I've worked closely with our tribes. I sit on Kitsap Regional Coordinating Council, where we sit in partnership with our tribes because we are looking out as far as Kitsap County as a whole. I also have had the privilege of working with our tribes because we have a small piece in the city of Bremerton, where we had to work in partnership with the tribe. Many times the residents wanted that piece of property closed, and that piece of property is its own land and they have its own policies. We as a city of Bremerton cannot overrule their policies or their leadership, and we must work in partnership. So when we work in partnership, it's definitely a greater vision than working against them. I think in the end product, our communities are happy, the tribe is happy, and I think because we chose to work together instead of separate. So we definitely work together all the time.
Thank you. Tarra?
Yes, I've had the great honor to work with both of our local tribes for several years now, developing a program for people coming out of the Kitsap County Jail, reentering, and providing them with wraparound support, addressing housing and mental health access and chemical dependency and job training, and really give people the second chance that they need to succeed after incarceration. I also have deep and meaningful and accountable personal relationships with both of our tribes. I have received the sole endorsement of both of our tribes in this race. They have held fundraisers for me. They have given me art to hang on my legislative wall if I'm elected in Olympia. We have very accountable, nurturing, and supportive relationships, which I am honored to have.
Thank you. Okay. Are you all aware of the problem of violent sexual predators being placed and living in a family neighborhood? And if so, what are your thoughts on this issue? And we get to start with Lou.
Well, if you're referring to the Paulsbo house, I think Paulsbo was a little taken advantage of, in that as I understand it, that house acquired a permit under somewhat shady circumstance, where the residents were going to be from McNeil Island, known to commit recidivative sexual assaults. I know that they've been working hard and looking at legislation to avoid that in the future. It's a big issue in Paulsville. Thank you.
Thank you. Leslie?
Thank you. That's a big issue throughout Kitsap County. And the one issue is they were going to put, in the county, we're mandated by the state to find housing for sexual predators. And with that in mind, the county was finding homes that were workable for the individuals, but we need to work in partnership, because when you're looking at city codes and the ordinance says that you have to be 1,000 feet from schools, we need to make sure we look at that. But when you're doing this on county property, they're looking at their codes and their ordinances, but not coming to the table with the other cities. And so we all need to come to the table when this issue is a concern. And I've spoken at commissioners' meetings regarding this, trying to make sure that their housing isn't going to affect our children, our schools, that their codes, our codes, the county codes, correlate with the city codes, that we can house them, but making sure that our community is safe in the same time. Thank you.
Thank you. Tarra?
Yeah, you know, as a woman who has survived sexual violence, I strongly support putting public safety first in everything. We need to keep our children and our community safe. And at the same time, part of that is making sure that people who have conditions and brain disorders that cause them to do harm are housed first, because when they are homeless, they are at more risk to commit more crime and create more victims. And so coming together to make sure that people are housed is a priority, but where to put them is going to take creative problem solving and coming together as a community, and also making sure that everyone's aware and that there are guardrails up to make sure, number one, that we are all safe. So that's where I would land on that.
Okay. April?
This is an issue I've actually done a considerable research in. This wasn't just housing of sex offenders. This was the approving of a less restrictive environment for placement. These were individuals still under the jurisdiction, the care of Department of Corrections. We need to have a system that better ensures that the rights of the community are looked out for in these placements. The community had rights in this situation, including to go to the hearings and to voice concerns. And I think what we really need is to have before consideration, a community advocate that is appointed by the court to look out for the rights of the community, ensure that the community members were properly notified, that they were given the opportunity to appear at the hearing, and that there are issues like, for example, a school bus stop is right across from the house. That should have never been allowed. That placement should have never been allowed.
Thank you, April. Okay, next question. How will you support public schools as they face the challenges of safely and effectively educating students during a pandemic? Leslie, you get to go first.
Thank you. I work in a middle school for Bremerton School District for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And we definitely are doing a disservice if we can't provide the services for our students to move forward and learn an education. But the one thing I would love to see in our schools is to make sure that we provide laptops, computers, internet. Those were some of the concerns that some families had, and we need to make sure if we're going to provide a decent education to all our students, we need to give them the tools that they need. If it means a hotspot for Wi-Fi, if it means a laptop, if it means providing free meals to the students so they can continue to have their meals and their education, then we need to make sure we look at all our schools that we're providing that as part of our school supplies, and then, or part of the school education as far as the school supplies. And then, you know, looking at masks and making sure our students have masks if we go back to school. So we just need to make sure we're providing the tools that they need.
Thank you. Tarra?
Yeah, if it's not safe for the children to go back to school in the fall, then the legislature needs to make sure that we're not creating an unsafe environment for our children. I mean, health comes first. However, what we need to also address is the mental health and the strain that this is on children. I have a 17-year-old who is in high school right now who was fortunate to be doing Running Start, and he could have done it online. However, he just wasn't able to do that without constant coaching and support, because children are accustomed, our culture is accustomed to being in person and being in community together. And so to have this isolation and expecting parents to provide education for your child and the child to learn how to do everything online, it just hasn't been successful for every child. And so coming up with innovative solutions like having small classrooms outside on a few days a week, so you still have some kind of connection with people, if that's safe to do, making sure paraeducators are utilized to the best of their ability, maybe doing in-home tech support and things like that. I'll save the rest for later.
April?
Problem that I see with a lot of the current plans that we're hearing about what's going to be for education next year is it does not provide, it provides maybe access to education, but it doesn't provide meaningful access to education in a healthy environment. One of my my past education was in early learning and educational environments. And for example, my son is autistic. He's not, as things are right now being planned, he's not going to be able to participate in education next year. And just like Tara was saying, the online stuff doesn't work for every student. It's not going to work for my son. And so I know for a fact that there are children with special needs. There's going to be hard to accommodate access to meaningful education for them with how things are currently being planned. Every learner has different styles of learning. That's something that you learn in pretty much education 101, is that the different styles of learning require different approaches and accommodations.
Okay, thank you, April. Lou?
Okay, mandatory access to the internet and a device for every student has to be, because I know they're going to try and get everybody into the school maybe 2 days a week, whatever. We have to have a good, solid backup program for that, because I think it's going to be difficult. I have this crazy idea, which is that, so we're going to try and bring the kids, put them on a bus, bring them back into the school for 2 days a week or something like that. We've got to be really creative in how we're going to find this access, and it might be remote. I don't, you know, it's kind of funny, but we have thousands of mobile schoolrooms available to us, and they're called school buses. And so I don't know if this is crazy, but this is the kind of forward thinking we're going to have to come up with. All those buses are sitting around, put a driver in it, go pick up the kids, put one teacher in it, bring it to the school. There's Sandy cans, and so literally you can use that as your classroom.
Okay, Luke, thank you.
Great idea, thanks.
I'm going to run through the same order again now because it sort of just popped into my mind. But and we'll start again with Leslie on this one. How do you think the county, the state can provide the broadband that people need, kids need, if they're going to learn online? They don't just need a device, they need access to the internet. Plus, adults need it if they're asked to work from home. So how does the county, the state, how do we get that? Your thoughts?
Well, I think we need to definitely lobby with that, work with getting broadband, but we need to lobby that because right now we don't, in Kitsap County, we don't have internet in all areas. We don't have broadband in all areas. And we need to make sure as we are doing, moving forward in Kitsap County in the 23rd, and we do construction, we need to make sure that we're putting in internet and broadband. It's going to be a challenge because we have communities that do not receive Wi-Fi at all. And so we have to bring in Wi-Fi to those areas. And so we have to work with the companies and the organizations that provide that, and so we need to make sure to reach out to them and saying, we need Wi-Fi, we need broadband, and how can we partner together to make this work for our schools?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tarra?
Yeah, Representative Marcus Rutelli is proposing legislation at the state level to ensure that there are state subsidies that make sure that broadband is available across our state. And so your next representative should absolutely support his proposal and make sure that we make that happen. Because without it, there continues to be inequities throughout our entire state, especially on the coast, but even here in Kitsap County. So we absolutely need to get it and make it a priority. And progressive revenue will help fund it.
Okay, thank you. April?
Well, first, if we're replacing the classroom with online classes, I don't see why we're going to need to bring more revenue, take more from the people in order to provide education. Basic education is required by Washington State Constitution. We're talking about taking the kids out of the classroom and putting them onto online classes. So what we need to do is we need to rethink our education budgets and how are we going to afford that within that, because that is the kids' classroom now, is online.
Okay. Lou?
I believe the question was about access to internet. I'm not sure.
Yes, how are we going to get that to everybody equally?
Well, I addressed this in my opening as one of the most critical things. And again, I think that's going to be through partnerships and joint venturing with .com companies and such. I think that it's mandatory. Not only that, what it is that I talk to people, older folks now, they're having their medical meetings with their doctors online. It's gone beyond just now educating our children, this demand that we need access to that in our community. And Tarra was right. Whoever that our representative with everything should support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Some of you may have addressed this before, but the question is, do you think the governor should call a special session of the legislature this summer? And what would be the purpose of such session? Tarra, you get to start.
There I go, sorry. I think that we are watching the situation very closely right now. It appears to be a little bit premature because we are hoping that the federal government is going to pass additional support that will help us get through the rest of this year. If we do come back to a special session, I do think it will, regardless of where we're at financially, it will also be a really good time to move forward on some policing reform that the community is calling for right now. So we are watching the situation very closely. I think there is a possibility, but we're also just waiting to make sure it's not premature before we know if we're funding from the federal government. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, April?
I believe that a special session is necessary because I believe that the executive power has taken too many steps where I believe he should have consulted more with the legislator. And, you know, I've got a word block there, but I believe that it's necessary to bring the legislator into some of these issues before it further costs the Washington state and our businesses, our education. I am in support of a special session. I believe we need some control on the executive power.
Okay.
Checks and balances.
Lou?
Well, I think we're going to be terribly disappointed with our federal response to this. I would hope we would have better, but I'm not counting on that. And I think we do need a special session. That I think in October would be good, so we can see how the school, that will give us a month into the school progression. It will give us an idea on where we're looking at our budgets, and that we can start looking at line item issues to help. Thank you.
Okay. Leslie?
Thank you for that question. A special session, yes, I think that is vital. If anything, to regroup, to talk about what's next for the pandemic, to look at our finances and see where we're at financially. The one thing our legislative body is responsible for rules and policies and ordinances, and our executive body is responsible for enforcing those rules and policies. So yes, an executive session so we can look at policies regarding our Black Lives Police reform, regroup to see where we are financially, talk about school coming up in the fall, make sure that we are all ready for the next wave if we should have it. And make sure that we have supplies needed and talk about in the fact that making sure the next wave, the next group of people will have the supplies, we have the stuff needed for our schools and our students, and definitely just to look at our finances and move forward from there. I don't foresee a lot of funding coming in, so we'll see how that goes federally.
Yeah.
Okay. Among the individuals or organizations that have endorsed you, which ones are you most proud of? And how much money do you expect to raise during this campaign? April, you get to go first.
I received the endorsement from Washington Farm Bureau, and that I was very proud of that. I will be an advocate for our family farms and for agriculture. There is the human, I always get the name of it, I was confused, Human Life Pack, and I'm honored to have their endorsement. I am a strong pro-life advocate, and I believe in the sanctity of life, and that the purpose of government is really to protect individual rights and life. And so I'm honored to have theirs. And then I'm endorsed by Kitsap County Republican Party, 23rd Legislative District Republicans. I received a rating for the NRA. I'm proud of that. I am a strong Second Amendment supporter and believe in the right to our rights to protect ourselves.
Okay,
and
thank you, April. Time's gone.
sorry.
Lou?
Well, actually, I've not asked or sought any endorsements from anyone or requested any money. I thought that this is my first time, and that I would not ask people to support me that way. If I made it through into the main election, I would. But as of now, I am most actually proud of the support that I have from individuals, from people that I've known 30 years, from Republicans, businessmen that say they've done business with me and they'll vote for me, or teachers, family. That's who I'm the proudest of, and that's who I'm proudest of. Thank you for that.
Okay. Leslie?
Sorry, finding the mute button. Hi, thank you. Our goal is to raise 50,000. I've currently raised 30,000 already. And some of the proudest endorsements I have Washington Housing Alliance Action Fund. They help on homelessness and affordable housing. Humane Voters, A Voice for Our Animals. National Women Political Caucus of Washington. International Association of Firefighters. Free Thought Equality Fund. Young Democrats of Kitsap County, the Washington Stonewall Democrats, United UFCW 21, Amalgamated Transit. Those are a few, but I also have School Board Ali Rotter, School Board Director John Hurley, Karen Bolton, Congressman retired Norm Dick. So I have a list of endorsements, but the thing I'm proudest of is a lot of my donations are local within our community, not very many out of state. Money coming into my campaign. A lot of local voters that know me. Thank you.
Thank you. Tarra?
Yeah, so we've raised about $190,000 so far in our campaign without taking a single dollar from corporate PACs or fossil fuel industries. Almost all of that is on individual donors. A lot of that is on the people who have endorsed me, it's really hard to pick who I'm the most proud of. I think last week I was really proud to get U.S. Senator Patty Murray to give me the endorsement in this race. She doesn't usually do that in a primary, but Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, all of the senators and representatives of this district that are Democrats, so Senator Emily Randall and Christine Rolfes, Drew Hansen and Representative Appleton. I have over 50 elected officials that have given me the sole endorsement in this campaign. Also, I've received the sole endorsement of the Washington State Labor Council, which represents hundreds of thousands of union workers, about 20 unions, both of the local tribes, the Washington Conservation Voters, the Alliance for Gun Responsibility, Planned Parenthood, NARAL.
Thank you. Thank you. That's it.
Okay.
And guys, that was the last question. So now you get to give your closing statement, and we'll go in the opposite direction than we went for the opening. So April, you get to give your closing statement first. You have 2 minutes.
This election is about restoring balance in Olympia, advocating for small businesses, reviving our economy, and protecting constituents from an overbearing government. I believe that as a state representative, it will be my role to represent the best interest of constituents by protecting their individual liberties and voting with a responsible stance on all issues. I will be the representative that will check every bill to ensure that it does not compromise individual liberty, that it does not defy the proper role of government, and that it is financially responsible for our state. We need change in Olympia that is balanced and fiscally responsible for Washington. If you give state representative, thank you.
Thank you, April. Tarra?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say thank you to the League of Women Voters again for holding this forum. I want to say thank you to the fellow candidates for their dedication and public service and their courage to run. Also, to everybody who attended tonight, who cares about a local primary race such as ours. I'm running for this position not because to the discredit of anybody else, but because I am passionate about the work to make our community a healthy and thriving place for everybody. And because I believe that I have the educational background, the personal and professional lived experience in order to be the best representative for our community, particularly in a time where we're facing an intersectional health, economic, and civil rights crisis. As a former nurse, I know the inequities in our healthcare system, and I will stop fighting until every single person in our community has access to healthcare. As a civil rights attorney, the mother of 2 Black sons, and a national criminal justice reform leader, I've already been leading our state on the solutions that will address the current social unrest and systemic racism. As a person who's overcome poverty, I've relied on government assistance and alternative education, community college, and I know the value of a good paying job and how that can tremendously change our lives. I'll continue to stand with our working families and also fight for the most vulnerable amongst us so everybody has the same opportunities that I've had. In this race, I have received the sole endorsement of over 50 elected officials, several unions and allied organizations, teachers and the nurses that I didn't get to talk about, but I'm really proud of the few hundred community leaders that have stepped up to really join and partner in this historic race. And this is because that people know my work ethic down in Olympia. I've been down there fighting for our district for the past 5 years, and I can get things done. There's nothing that I want to be a good representative for you, so I want to leave you with my phone number because I want to be accessible. It's 360-649-8378, and you can look at the website and contact me through that too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Leslie.
First of all, thank you to the League of Women Voters of Kitsap County. Thank you to the participants. Thank you to the candidates for being here today. I am honored to be here and to speak to you. I am a 4th term Bremerton City Councilwoman. I have done great things regarding our city of Bremerton as far as moving it forward. And I think I would do great things in the state house as well. I have lobbied for education, healthcare. I've lobbied for our cities, our county, various lobby days for our union members. I've rallied with our union members and stood with our union members. But the one thing I want to say about me, I'm a female, I'm a person of color, a child of immigrant parents. And so many of the issues that I represent and the people that I know are getting stepped on. And we need to make sure we bring experienced people into Olympia, because now more than ever is a time that we need to show that we have experience in there. Not only am I a person of color and child of immigrant parents, but I also work in education. So I've seen the eyes of our education. I was homeless. I was a pregnant teenager. People raised me up, and I want to open the doors for others in my community. I continue to serve my community. I have volunteered in many organizations with CARE, whaling days, some of the great things that we won't be participating because of the COVID. I'm an avid volunteer in our community. I'm a mentor. I work in education as well. I'm a city councilwoman. And so I believe in my community because I want our community to be a great place for all that lives here. I want injustice to be put away. I face discrimination regularly as an elected female, and I want to make sure that discrimination is not an issue. We shouldn't be being discriminated. This is the time where we should be moving forward, and I want to continue to move forward. My name is Leslie Daugs. I am running for the State House, and please reach out to me at Leslie Daugs, electleslieDaugs.com, 360-440-1961.
Thank you. Lou?
Oh, great. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you and share my ideas with you. And I think that it's great that everybody's there and interested in what's going on. I'd like to do just 3 shout outs to close. One is for the Georgia House in Bremerton. They serve homeless women and abused women, and they help them take whatever little bit is left of their family and keep them together. They're one of the few that can have a son over 13 that's allowed to be with them. And so I think that's great. They can use any support that you can give them. The next is, I want to shout out to 2 people that reached out to me. This is the first time that I've done it. And I know that we need people to step forward. In January's cold evening, and I get a call, and it's a woman asking, are you Lou Krukar? I said, yes. And she goes, are you running for the legislature? And I said, yeah. I said, you're the first person to call me. I'm so excited about that and so honored. And it was April. And I grilled her for an hour what it was going to be like. She told me that there would be this League of Women's Voters and everything. So, and then the other was to Leslie. She reached out to me. I had a hard kind of outing, and she offered any assistance. And to me, why I have just believed that we're all going to be okay is because we have people like these two women. All they wanted for me to do was to be better. I knew that, nothing else. And so thank you to them. And that's why I'm so encouraged by our candidates. We'll get a good pick. I know we will. The other is Kingston Cares next Friday, 5 o'clock at Village Green is we give a meal out, and I'm excited to be a part of that this coming Friday. And again, thank you very much.
Thank you. You all make me proud to be a resident of this area. I always feel this way after a candidate forum because it's civics at work. It's wonderful.
Amen.
It really is. You should have gotten a questionnaire sent by the State League to fill out that goes on our site, Vote 411. A lot of people look at that. So if you have time, fill that out. And I just want to leave everybody, if some of the attendees are still around, with one final thought. To show how important the League of Women Voters believes the power of the vote is, we have special masks.
Good job. Good job.
That's fun. Good night to everybody. Good luck to all of you. You're good people. Thank you. Thank you for running.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Jamendo.com. 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 Jamendo.com.